Education quality assurance body Umalusi says it is concerned with increased irregularities during the Matric examinations. The body approved the Department of Basic Education's 2022 National Senior Certificate in Pretoria yesterday, ahead of the release of results this week. According to reports received from different assessment bodies, different forms of cheating were uncovered in some centres during the examinations. Invigilators will now also be investigated following a rise in these irregularities. To talk about this, we are joined by Umalusi CEO, Dr. Mafu Rakometsi, who joins us via Zoom. Great to have you, Doc. Thanks so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, Leanne, and good morning to you and to your viewers.
But more importantly, all systems go. Matric results to be released this week, coming on Thursday. That's the date. So everything going to go ahead as planned?
Yes, indeed. We have considered the reports on how these examinations were run from the Department of Basic Education. And we have also considered the reports of our quality assurance of assessment managers at Umalusi. And the Executive Committee of Council found that these examinations have run very well and that they remain credible and that we are free to declare them as valid and that the minister can release. This despite a few episodes of irregularities, malpractices happening in some centers, which we were able to pronounce on yesterday, where we say those results should be blocked.
Yeah. So just the 2 points to get to. So firstly, everything is all systems go, results coming out as planned on Thursday. Just a couple of concerns also with the sort of, the department are not calling it a delay in the results. You've got the EFF saying that it is not right that these results are only going to be released after schools have already started, and this will put any matriculant who does fail on the back foot if they want to get back into a school. Let's perhaps address that before we get into the details of the marking. The so-called delay or not delay in these results. Talk to us about this.
The South Africans will recall that in 2020, we experienced COVID-19. The pandemic delayed everything, including the learning program. There were a lot of learning losses in 2020 and 2021. The 2022 school calendar started late as a result. And further, during 2022, which was COVID-19 free, the department had to do a lot of catch up for the learners because of the learning losses that happened in 2020 and 2021. So the release of the results this Thursday was planned, and everybody across the board knew that the results will be released at this time, including the universities. So regarding the learners who will fail, the department has got repeat centers where the learners who do not make it could go to improve their symbols, to improve their results. So the universities as well started with their registration of the candidates and the applications last year in June up to September. And they accepted students on the strength of their grade 11 results. And what remains is for the confirmation of the results, which will be released on Thursday. And as we speak, the universities have got data already, though not finalized, of saying the data that says which of the learners have passed, which of the learners have failed. So they are able to do their sifting, and that will be confirmed, of course, after the minister would have released the results.
Yeah. Let's now get into the actual quality of the papers and some of your findings and the irregularities that you did find. I mean, obviously the results are basically overall getting a thumbs up, but the bottom line is that there were some irregularities, and you have found that this is unacceptable, obviously, as have many people after reading some of these irregularities in the paper. Let's go through them. What were your findings, and what led to this?
The irregularities with the question papers, if we're to start there, is that we found some mistakes in the question papers. These question papers are said by specialists who know their work, They are experts in their fields. But fact of the matter is that they remain human. They're human beings and they are bound to make mistakes here and there. And we want to apologize profusely for the mistakes that have crept into the papers. This experience has taught us some lessons, and we are going to strengthen our processes to ensure that we don't have a recurrence of this. Now, going to the centers, we have observed that the irregularities are continuing and they are increasing. Previously, with all examinations over the years, we have been experiencing learners coming in with crib notes, the learners helping each other one way or the other. But there is a new phenomenon which we started seeing in 2014, and that is the phenomenon of group copying, where learners assist each other in the examination room. Now, the question is, how can the learners be able to assist each other in the examination room where we're supposed to be having an invigilator? And the other trend that we have seen now is that learners enroll on WhatsApp groups and they pay huge sums of money for them to receive answers from somebody who will get a question paper. Immediately the question paper is released, prepare answers, and send the answers to learners in the examination rooms. And they send the answers to the learners in the examination rooms on their cell phones, which are, of course, not even supposed to be in the examination rooms. Now, this begs the question, where are the invigilators when all these things are happening, that learners are able to get into the exam rooms with cell phones, that learners are able to do group copying in the examination room? That undermines the system. And we are saying, where previously we used to focus on punishing learners, this time around, we would want to see the invigilators involved also being punished and facing the music.
Yeah. Have you identified some of these invigilators?
Yes, indeed. They've been identified because this would happen at particular centers.
Yeah.
And I have it on good authority that one of the invigilators was suspended last year in November after the WhatsApp group was discovered.
Okay. So when we say suspended, what other penalties or punishment is going to be laid on these invigilators?
What would happen is that once the investigation has been completed, the department has got a labor relations department where disciplinary processes can be initiated against the educators involved, and the sanction will be a dismissal if they are found guilty. We have to be building learners who are having good morals, who are having good ethics, and we can only trust that it is the teachers who can inculcate these values in our kids. So if teachers are doing these things, that is unpardonable. It is a taboo.
I want to go back now. Obviously, that's the punishment on those invigilators and the cheating aspect that you were not happy with. But I want to go back to some of the mistakes that were found in a couple of the papers. And I know that there were, I think, about 5 errors that were found in different papers. But the most alarming, of course, was that one in Maths paper 2 that amounted to 7 points. Or 7 marks that had to actually be deducted off the total because the solution could not be found. I mean, that was what you investigated. You sent it through panels of experts that looked into it, and that particular sum could not be solved. And the reality is that this was in the paper and it was not meant to be there, or it was there, but something went wrong. What went wrong when there are so many eyes that are supposedly looking at the exams? I mean, it goes through such a massive process, whether it be the exam paper development process, external moderating processes, editing, typesetting process, proofreading process, and yet it still lands in front of a student. What went wrong?
I'll try to explain what happened here. What happened is that the paper was completed by the examiner and the internal moderator. It was taken to the external moderator of Umalusi. The external moderator of Umalusi identified areas that needed to be corrected. Question 5.1 was not one of them. Question 5.1, at the time when the Umalusi external moderator had the first iteration on the paper, was correct. So he instructed the internal moderator of the department to correct question, maybe let's assume question 2, question 6, question 7. Indeed, he did that. And in the process of doing that, he discovered that a symbol, a mathematical symbol in question 5.1 was wrong in terms of the font and the font size and the font type. The internal moderator of the department corrected that font. Now, without alerting the external moderator. Now, when the external moderator reviewed the paper again, he only focused on those questions that he had wanted to have corrected. And he thought all things remained the same in question 5.1. So the paper was ready now for printing, and that error had crept in when the internal moderator inserted that symbol. Yeah. So the problem went undetected, and the people apologized profusely for the error, because we are saying, even at the point of printing, the paper must be checked by both the external moderator and the internal moderator. Yeah. We are saying you have learned the lessons here in terms of our processes and how they need to be strengthened.
Yeah, and certainly, because, you know, at the end of the day, it is the learner who's sitting in front of that paper that, I mean, if you think about it, when you come across this particular problem and you need to solve it, and it is unsolvable, and you keep coming back to it, you waste time on it, it may throw you off for the rest of the paper. I mean, these are complaints, I imagine, that you're going to have to deal with once you get all of the results coming in. And I mean, this surely is a case to answer to, because I know that there's been an apology sent out, but I mean, this is unacceptable in a maths paper, which really does throw students off totally. I mean, we know what it's like sitting in front of a final.
It is indeed an unjustifiable mistake, and we have apologized profusely for that mistake that is crept in. However, we need to indicate that when learners are trained for examinations, they are taught to focus on questions that they can work on easily, and to leave those that are problematic immediately, because they don't have to waste time. That is the training I got as a student. That is the training I gave to my students, and that is the training that the teachers continue to give to the students. Mm-hmm. I agree that we cannot justify the error. We just have to apologize and say we're going to strengthen the system, and even in future, ensure that we educate these candidates who are going to write examinations, that once you find a problematic question, don't waste time on it. Go focus on those where you can make headway and where you can score marks.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, look, that's the advice I was given as well. But, you know, there are students out there and learners out there that are going for that 100%, or it just, you stop there, and especially when the reality is that you cannot solve it. I mean, there were other mistakes in the papers as well. I mean, some things where they say that you had to identify underlined words and write them out in full, but there were actually no underlined words. So, you know, there were some very sloppy mistakes. But, I mean, just in comparison to previous years, if I may ask you...
Can I correct something?
Yeah, please do.
Can I correct something? All is not lost. Whatever losses the learners who wanted to get 100% had have been compensated for, and compensated for adequately. The 7 marks, if I were to illustrate that point, I've got a document on my table here. The question 5 had 30 marks. So it was 30 minus 7, with the 7 marks in question 5.1. Now, we have compensated for the loss of 7 marks with a scaling process, so that a learner who obtained 1 mark will get 1 mark out of 30. The learner who got 2 out of 23 will get 3 out of 30. 4 out of 23 will get 5 out of 30. I'm just running through them. 11 out of 23 will get 14 out of 30, and the one who gets 23 out of 23 will get 30 out of 30. So that is the scaling. They've been compensated at that level. Yeah. And also, when we do standardization, the mathematics paper of the Department of Basic Education, the marks were adjusted upwards because of the mishap that occurred in the paper.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to have to leave it there. But Dr. Rakometsi, thank you. Thanks for talking to us about this. But in sort of one closing statement as we head into the ad break, in comparison to previous years, were you satisfied with the standard, or do you need to crack the whip a little bit and say you can do better next year? To the department.
We are happy with the standards.
Okay.
We are happy with the standards. The people have worked very hard. The mistakes that have crept in are human. We're working with human beings here. We're not working with machines.
Okay.
And we don't have to beat ourselves as South Africans. We have to say we have learned a few lessons and we'll correct them. We are very happy with how the department ran the examinations.
All right, Doctor, we'll leave it there. Dr. Mafu Rakometsi, who is, of course, the CEO of Umalusi, talking to us about a couple of concerns around these irregularities during the Matric examinations. But overall, they are very satisfied with the results and the papers from this 2022 Matric year.